Hey all, here OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the DT Watch X. This is a budget smartwatch that sells for around $30 to $40, and interestingly has an MP3 player functionality because there is 4 gigabytes of built-in storage. So you can connect these directly to wireless headphones like AirPods and listen to music without even connecting to your phone, kind of like a modern-day iPod if Apple still made those. In fact, if you connect it to your computer using the USB cable, you can use it as a thumb drive as well to store documents and then drag and drop files over. And also for a budget smartwatch, it touts a AMOLED display, which is pretty impressive, meaning that the contrast should be a lot richer compared to IPS LCD. And in addition, this screen also has a always-on display mode, allowing you to more quickly glance down and see the time without even waking up the screen, although the always-on mode will drain a little bit more power. Still, it will last around 7 to 10 days of continuous usage before the battery runs out, which is pretty good, although features aren't going to be as rich as a Android Wear or Apple Watch. Other quick specs include an IP60 waterproof rating, so you can use this when washing your hands, splashing it wet, it should still survive. And you'll find pretty typical fitness health trackers on here, including SpO2 blood oxygen, heart rate, as well as sleep monitoring, not to mention a built-in microphone and speaker, so that can be used to answer phone calls, as well as playback music if you're not connecting it to wireless headphones. There's even a few built-in games, and because of the larger built-in storage on this model, you are able to save a lot more offline watch dials. Definitely looks a lot more expensive than the price here would imply. The screen, by the way, measures 1.43 inches. It's a perfectly round panel with a 466 by 466 resolution, 22 millimeter watch bands, which can be swapped out. The only missing features here would be built-in GPS, although you can use your phone's connected GPS if you're running to track your route. And unlike more premium smartwatches, there's not going to be additional third-party apps that you can download and push over, but just for basic notifications, health monitoring, and again, using as a wrist-borne MP3 player or DAP, digital audio player, it might be an interesting idea to consider. Otherwise, inside of the packaging, we have, of course, just the Watch X itself, along with the aforementioned charging and data sync cables. Just like a thumb drive or SD card, it's going to work with any macOS, Windows, Linux system, and just using standard USB Type-A. The packaging also provides 2 straps. You can pick between this one, which is made out of rubber for more sports-like appearance, easier to wash, versus this one, which has more of a synthetic leather texture, more business professional. Closer look at the design of the watch. It is impressively built out of metal alloy here on the sides with this kind of interesting asymmetrical right edge that houses the up and down keys. The bottom one here can be used to wake and turn the screen here into sleep, as well as the top one can be pressed to pull up the full list of applications. And also the OLED screen offers extremely vibrant looking colors with the aforementioned always-on display mode, so even when the screen times out, you can have a more minimalist style clock here still show you the time. I also like the slight 2.5D curved edges of the glass, as well as the crown accents, giving it a more premium touch. Now the metal construction continues on the rear, which is a bit of a fingerprint magnet, but again, feels incredibly solid. You have the various biosensors, heart rate, SpO2, the watch straps again can be fully removed, as well as on the edge here is the microphone as well as speaker. Overall, it's relatively compact, comfortable to wear on the wrist for both men and women alike. As a size reference, here it is next to a more kind of sports or rugged design smartwatch from Cospit that you can tell is going to be substantially thicker. So this is not bad when it comes to the overall level of comfort. Now the UI here is also kind of interesting. The main watch face does have a more dynamic animation to it, but you can of course change it into other styles. And because of, again, the larger built-in storage, you're able to switch between just dozens and dozens that the watch can hold on to, as well as find additional ones that you like via the companion app that we'll see in a moment. So quite easy to customize, with the AMOLED display here looking quite sharp and vibrant. So really not bad. You can find between kind of analog as well as digital styles based on your preferences. The haptic vibration motors inside the watch are also quite good. So whenever there's a system notification or you're long holding on certain menus, it just gently vibrates. One downside though is the information shown on the dials aren't really interactive. You can't swap them for other functions. In addition, you can't tap to take a closer look at these stats. However, you can double tap to go into a 3D view, jumping into the other widgets in the carousel instead of having to slide left and right individually if you're trying to go to a specific page more quickly. We can swipe down to also take a closer look at other shortcuts, including up top here is where you can select whether you want to connect to your phone or just use the watch's built-in speakers for music playback or connect to wireless headphones. So again, using them as dedicated music players with some external speakers or headsets of your choice. Additional shortcuts include changing the volume higher or lower, in addition to changing the screen brightness. So there's 5 different levels, and overall decent enough in terms of general visibility, although there isn't an ambient light sensor that automatically makes the screen brighter or dimmer like on more expensive models out there. You can also tap on a UI effect icon here to change the way that the pages will then flip around as you navigate around the carousel. So this one here, for example, is called the rotate, but you can also choose a more subtle transition effect like normal instead. Other shortcuts include putting the watch into a do not disturb mode, a night mode, also a power saving mode to consume a little bit less energy, and there's also a raise to wake gesture. So whenever you flick the watch up, it will turn the screen on automatically. You can turn this on or off. Now if we tap on more advanced settings, we can turn on the always on display mode. So you have a couple different options to choose between, still lasting around 6 days or so in my testing, which was pretty good. You can also choose at what points in time you want the always on screen to be activated. For instance, if you're sleeping at night and not really looking at the watch, you can turn it off to consume even less power. A couple of other settings here include allowing you to change the wallpaper as opposed to being completely black like on the majority of other smartwatches. So just allowing you to have a little bit more customization. Furthermore, the watch also allows you to set a password if you want added security. You can also choose between charging versus the USB mass storage mode when you are connecting to your computer here. And also there is a view mode function that allows you to change the style of how the list of apps are displayed, which will instead look something like this. We can also double tap on the top key, by the way, to cycle through those formats really quickly. So you have a couple of options there to choose between. I think that first one really is the most practical one, to be honest, but again, if you don't like the way it looks, you can find a few other options. In similar fashion, although tapping once on the bottom key again turns the screen on and off, you can also double tap to enter a quick shortcut of accessing the sports tracking modes. So on here, you're able to, for example, perform a run, a basketball session, something like yoga, dance, so on and so forth, and it will track your heart rate second per second during the entire session. I'll also point out one more function under advanced settings, which is called storage space. So you're able to check out how much of the memory you've currently occupied and how much is free. That being said, what is a little bit confusing is, again, there is technically 4 gigabytes of built-in storage, as we talked about earlier in this video. In fact, you can even see that down below here, equals 4 GB. But for some reason, they're displaying it as 32 gigabytes, as well as on some of the advertisement pages on their website, which can be a little bit misleading. I would have preferred if they just used 4 gigabytes up front, since again they literally state unit conversion 32 gigabyte equals 4 GB, which doesn't really make sense, but at least you can tell a rough percentage based on kind of the chart here of how much is free. Now cycling into the carousel of widgets, we can go here left and right to enter a quick status of how many steps we've taken, calories burned, distance walked at different points during the day, as well as how active we were at different days of the week. Once more here to take a heart rate data, which is also tracked again continuously throughout the day. Accuracy of both the pedometer as well as the heart rate sensor do seem to be fair, that I didn't have too many complaints in this regard. You can also take a look at your weather status in terms of highs, lows, as well as the UV level and humidity. However, on this particular watch, it looks like you can't really look ahead to the next couple of days or 7 days like on other models, so it's just stuck on the current day of the week. Once more again here to act as the MP3 player, so you can tap on the icon above to switch into other tracks you have stored on the built-in memory of the watch, as well as skip track, and down below you can also repeat certain tracks or go into a random shuffle if you wanted to, plus also quick shortcuts here for music volume control, in addition to if you want to connect to wireless headphones at a click. So let's play back kind of a quick demo here. This is what the built-in speakers sound like. So overall, it's decent. It's still going to be a little bit tinny if we're being completely honest, since it's much smaller than any phone or computer, but at least it is functional. And obviously connecting to external headphones or speakers will improve the audio quality dramatically, but it does recognize the majority of file formats, including MP3, WMA, FLAC. It can all be played back on here without too many issues. The only thing I will say though is there really isn't cover art support per se on this particular app. Now next tab over is a customizable one that you can also long hold for a couple of seconds to change into other functions or modules that you prefer using instead. For example, if we wanted to get rid of this one and return into that same page, we can now add additional functions like SpO2, the voice assistant, sleep tracking, in addition to meditation, based on your preferences. Now going into the full list of functions next, you'll also find additional tracking profiles, including sleep, which will reset in the PM. And on this watch, it also is a little bit simplified in terms of what's shown on here. So you only see the hours slept as well as the light versus deep, but there is no specific breakdown chart, which you can only see once you pair it with your phone that we'll see in a moment in the companion app for more details. There's also going to be blood oxygen on here, but the SpO2 sensor has to be triggered manually. It's not a continuous automatic measurement throughout the day like the heart rate sensor, so just keep that in mind. It takes about 15 seconds to get a complete test. And if you're connected to your phone, you can also access contacts as well as the dialer pad for making calls, and a few extra utility tools including a basic calculator is also found, and also a voice recorder, a pretty neat extra that takes advantage of the built-in storage of this particular model. Here's a quick demo of the microphone and voice recording performance. So quality there also is good enough for just some quick notes when on the go. Next one here is going to be built-in games, and again, with the larger storage, you do have more titles that are on here. None of them are going to be super graphically demanding, but still kind of fun to play if you are bored. And you have 2040A kind of stacking these tiles to reach that number. You also have the classic Snake game on here, a staple of Nokia phones of yesteryear. Kind of fun though on just a little watch. And you also have Flappy Bird, which does a decent enough job if you are, again, just trying to waste a little bit of time and you don't have anything else to kind of be entertained by, and it still is okay in terms of responsiveness with this touchscreen. Next title here is going to be Color Blind Test. So you have to tap on the tile essentially that's different in color from the majority of the other tiles, and afterwards you can increase your score. It will get progressively harder and harder with more tiles. Next one here is Tower of Hanoi. So you're trying to stack all of these different pieces into the final pole over here on the right. The pieces can only be stacked on top of larger ones, so it's another kind of strategy game that you're able to challenge yourself to, see how many steps it takes you to complete. Another one here is kind of a classic super slide game, and you're only able to move one piece at a time. Another one here is Sokoban, so you have to kind of push this little avatar here until all of the boxes will fill up the zones that are marked by the kind of yellow figures, and then you progress into the further stages of the game. So it's actually not bad for just some mini games built into a watch, that is, compared to other generic watches that sometimes comes with maybe just one or two titles. Again, you have a few more on the memory of this model. You can also set different alarm clocks, choose what days you want it to repeat, as well as simple functions like a stopwatch, countdown timer, as well as a flashlight that turns the entire screen white to illuminate objects a little bit more easily in the dark, plus locate your phone or use it as a Bluetooth camera shutter key if it's connected by Bluetooth. Finally, down below here is going to be the photo viewer. Some of these are stock images included by default that you can also delete when you connect it to your computer and free up the storage, but we also transferred a couple of files over just as demonstration, and it's doing a okay job. As you can tell there, the OLED screen does look quite vibrant, although it doesn't really support pinch to zoom. Also, because of the round screen, technically parts of the image might be slightly cut off if you're looking at a square photo, but sharpness and again color are all satisfactory. There's also a basic video viewer on here as well. Here is another stock example. It can read back MP4 files without too many issues. That being said, again, similar to the case with photos, it's not going to be showing the complete image. It's only kind of a round section, so some of the corners might be slightly segmented. And also, you don't really get any fast forward, rewind, or play and pause controls, so that is one limitation of this particular app. But at least video files themselves do play on something super tiny there on your wrist. So those are all the core built-in applications, again, using gestures on all the different sides there to navigate. Overall, I would say responsiveness of the UI is definitely quite good. good, surprisingly, again, for only a $40 smartwatch that goes on sale sometimes for even less. And I think that's also helped, again, by the slightly more memory as well as faster processor they chose for this model. It is easy enough to operate and use. Here's also a quick montage of a couple of additional kind of watch dials that you're able to choose, making it pretty easy to customize overall. Jumping into the Wear Fit app, one thing I am disappointed about is it looks like there is some increasing number of advertisements on this application. On the boot screen, for example, that you have to then kind of tap on to exit. And also, once you're in the UI, there's another card here that is going to be an advertisement as well. So even though I understand there is no subscription cost involved, it still is a recent development that I'm not a big fan of compared to a more clean version of the app. I guess they have to make revenue somewhere. Since the cost of the watch is so low, you end up with this as a consequence. But at the very least, the watch pairs quickly with the application once Bluetooth and location services are turned on, and you're able to, again, take a look at the track data, including steps, in a larger view. This will be more comfortable to review longer-term trends as well, and also taking a look at, again, sleep data on the app, you're able to at least see the stages of sleep more easily and also check out a sleep score that is missing on the watch side. Also providing a recommendation here of how to more quickly fall asleep. You can find another tab here for exercise. So let's say I'm trying to do a warm-up course. It's going to provide you with a couple of different steps, and if you tap on start, it will actually play back a sequence of quick tutorial videos on the phone, telling you what the ideal position is to perform this particular activity, so you can train together with this virtual coach for X seconds or minutes before moving on to the next set. And when connected to the phone, you can hear how the audio comes out from the watch, so you're able to hear it as you're performing the exercise. So again, this is not bad for something that is completely free. No subscription is required to access these training courses. An exercise tab on the top also allows you to use your phone's GPS or connected GPS for tracking your location when you're running outdoors. Otherwise, down below here, you can find a Discover tab, providing you with even more kind of exercise options, as well as kind of yoga exercises that you can try out, fat burning, as well as even some relaxation soundtracks can be found. Now finally, under device, this is where you're able to check out the battery percentage as well as go into watch dials. So you can take a look at which ones you currently have as well as the store to download additional dials. However, this is also an area where I think the app or maybe the servers they're using are a little bit spotty at times, such as under premium, you can actually see there are no additional dials I was able to find at the moment. And sometimes not all of the dials will load when you first jump into the app. It takes a couple of seconds. So the responsiveness and also adding even more third-party watch dials would be an area where maybe they can improve on in the future. In addition, you can turn on and off different types of incoming notifications like sedentary reminder, drinking water reminder. This is also where you're able to transfer images wirelessly from your phone over to the watch's built-in memory if you're not using it via the USB method, connecting it to your computer instead. And you can also take a look at your heart rate monitoring and again the duration as well as the frequency that you want the continuous measurement to be set to. So that is more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the DT Watch X budget smartwatch, again selling for around $40 and under. Although it's not perfect, it actually is a pretty strong showing for a low-cost smartwatch here in 2024 when it comes to the style, very good build quality, as well as a beautiful display, I have to admit, for such a low-cost watch. Not to mention the UI is pretty smooth to operate, and having the offline music storage capability makes it a pretty neat, again, iPod replacement MP3 player that you always have with you on your wrist. So you can check out more details if interested in the links down below. But for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the DT Watch X